Welcome back, everybody, to the Speedway Review. This is going to be one of my favorite episodes ever. My name is Chris Burns. Joining me, as always, is Jordan Balasico, Corey Huffnagel, and tonight, in the lower box, right underneath me, is, let me get his credentials up here, if you will. He did NASCAR coverage on the Speed Channel, Fox Sports 1. He appeared on NASCAR Race Hub, NASCAR Live. He's appeared on NASCAR Race Day, NASCAR Victory Lane, and is currently hosting Trading Paint on Sirius XM Satellite Radio. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. John Roberts. John, how are you doing tonight, buddy?
Excellent, guys. Thank you for having me. That's that's a long way. I always tell everybody in my history. I hosted the first night of Speed Channel, hosted the last night of Speed Channel, hosted the first ever live show on Fox Sports 1, and at that point, I guaranteed I'm not going to host the last one.
Well, okay, quick question.
It's true. This was true.
Before we get into the hows and the whys and the whatnots, I have to ask you, because as a speed freak for more years than I care to count, you worked at Speed Channel. Obviously, you had a lot of dealings with Bob Jenkins, who we lost not too long ago. How was Bob as a person to you?
Man, guys, Bob was, when you say class, in terms of broadcasters, a lot of the guys that we worked with over the years in that, and especially in the play-by-play role, were really, really high-class individuals. Bob Jenkins was among the best. But then, there's a lot of guys, though, that you see on TV that aren't the same that you see off TV. They're either different on the air or off the air. Bob was the exact same guy. Anytime you found him, as nice as can be. And I'm just really glad I got a couple of opportunities to work with him. And man, again, all I can say about that is high-class human being and a real credit to broadcasting and any motorsports that he was involved in.
He is certainly missed in the racing community. I can say that as a fan and as someone who did a little bit of broadcasting over the years and doing what we're doing now. I wanted to be a lot like Bob Jenkins, have that voice that people recognized and understood, and you had a certain clarity to it, much like what you did. How did you get into broadcasting?
Well, I never really wanted to do anything else other than broadcast. And it was, man, boy, where do we really start with this? I was in Harrisonburg, Virginia at James Madison University. And I'd met a guy, and I was doing radio. I was doing play-by-play for JMU women's basketball at a radio station where you could probably shout farther than the signal went. But nonetheless, it was on the air. And so I met this fellow, and I told him that he was the operations manager at the local TV station. Now, you guys know how TV markets go. This was one of the smallest TV markets in the country. But the TV station was an ABC affiliate. And so I asked him, his name is Chris Jones. I said, hey, look, man, I want to stay around for the summer. Is there anything I can do at your TV station? He said, well, actually, we do have a job opening, but I'm not too sure you're going to like it. And I said, well, what is it? And he said, well, it's part-time gardener. And I said, okay, I'll take it. So I was the gardener at the TV station, and it was exactly 4.5 miles away from my house. And I didn't have a car at the time, so I used to ride my Schwinn 10-speed from the house to the TV station. And so, guys, the opportunity came up. The weekend sports anchor was leaving the station. And I was outside, everybody there, though, knew why I was there. They knew what I wanted to do. And so the news director at the time was a fellow named Jim Bradley. And Bradley came out back, and I was pulling weeds out of the garden. And he said, hey, come inside. I need to talk to you about something. And guys, I did exactly what my brother and my father told me not to do. In my first TV interview, I told this guy, this news director, that I was going to be God's gift to sportscasting. I was going to be the greatest, most wonderful thing in the world. He goes, look, man, that's exactly what I don't need right now. He said, I need someone just to do this job and not ruffle any feathers. He said, man, I don't know if this is going to work out. So as luck would have it, well, I say my luck, not his, Old Jim, he was, well, enjoying a few adult beverages in one of the station vehicles, drove it off the side of the mountain on Massanutten Mountain. Fortunately, no one was hurt, but he was relieved of his duties.
Oh,
After
oh
that,
my God.
yeah, it's a serious and true story. And so, therefore, he was fired, and they moved everybody in the news department up, but they had already hired a sports anchor for the weekend. So, what the opportunity was there for was for me to be a part-time news reporter, and so that's how I started out. It was 19. Oh man, I hate to admit this, guys. It was 1987.
Mm.
And I started out as a news reporter and took a very strange turn around the Southeast in terms of going from TV station to TV station, and finally ended up in Charlotte. And I was actually, and again, this is kind of an interesting twist again. I had gone into my news director in Charlotte, and I had told her that I was going to quit the TV business. Guys, I was making more money, honestly. I was making more money mowing grass in Charlotte than I was anchoring on the CBS station in Charlotte. So I was going to go run my landscaping business. And the news director lady at the time, she said, "I'm not going to let you do that." And I said, "Well, that's not really your call." And she goes, "No, I think you're making a mistake. You shouldn't quit TV." And I said, "No, I'm quitting because this isn't going anywhere." And so during that period of time that I was fighting back and forth with her, I had gotten a call from somebody, and I really thought it was a couple of my buddies messing with me. I thought it was a joke. Somebody on the other end of the phone said, "How would you like to host a pre-race show for the Fox network?" And I absolutely thought it was a joke. And I almost said, "Take your job and shove it you know where." Fortunately, I did not. And so I started working with a company that was called NASCAR Images at the time. We started doing NASCAR This Morning in
Remember that.
2001. And it was supposed to be a 13-week handshake agreement. We had no contracts. It was me, Billy Engel, Steve Wade, and Derek Cope. Nobody had a contract. It was a week-to-week paycheck, and it was a very small paycheck, by the way. And so it was supposed to last 13 weeks, and we were going to go on our separate ways. And 18 years later, we were still doing the thing.
The biggest thing I'm taking away from the story you just told is, obviously you get the call. We all have those buddies that'll pull our chain and be like, yeah, this is horse, whatever. I'm not going to say it, but it's my catchphrase. This is horse crap. Move along. And there you are. You went into NASCAR, which is not exactly, depending on how you look at it, to me, the pinnacle. Yeah. I love NASCAR. I can miss a Falcons football game. I can miss however many Yankee games a year, but I never miss NASCAR. I might DVR it. I might have it in my ear on the app, but to miss NASCAR is like missing church. So you get into this crazy world of motorsports. Who was the first person that kind of brought you in and said, "This is how we do things"?
Ray Evernham.
Wow.
Ray Evernham. Absolutely number one top dude here. Because here's what happened when I went to, it was 1995 that I got hired in Charlotte, and I had been, doing a lot of NFL and NBA stuff. And when I went to Charlotte to the CBS station, the sports director at the time, Paul Cameron, still wonderful friend, awesome dude. He said, "Hey, look, you're taking over from our motorsports guy. Do you mind doing motorsports?" And I said, "Not at all. If I'm gonna be in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I'm a big fan, but I grew up in DC. So, we knew in DC, we knew who Richard Petty was. And I actually coincidentally lived very close to Joe Gibbs when he was skins coach in Vienna, Virginia. He was near the Oakton area. And if people know Northern Virginia, they'd understand that. But so at that point, Paul had said, "You have to take over our motorsports coverage." I said, "Yeah, I'd love to, but I want to make sure I know what I'm doing, because I know one thing, that NASCAR fans are very serious and very well educated, so I need to know what's going on." So he said, "Okay, call this guy. And it's funny, guys. He said, call Jimmy Johnson at Hendrick Motorsports. Well, this is 1995. This is Jimmy Johnson, the general manager, not Jimmy Johnson, the driver. And so I called Jimmy Johnson up. Now, guys, I'm used to dealing with NFL and NBA people. You don't call up the general manager of the Washington Redskins and say, hey, can I come by? Well, they just won the championship. Gordon had just won his second championship. And I called up this dude. He answered the phone. And I said, hey, look, I'm going to be the motorsports reporter for the local CBS station. And I would love to come talk to you. And he said, son, how soon can you be up here? Come on up. We'll give you an education. And I said, I'm coming right now. I said, come on up. So I drove up there, guys. And the first person he walked me down to, we talked for a good bit, but he walked me down to Randy Dorton, who, God rest his soul, was one of the coolest guys. Randy was absolutely amazing. So here again is the head engine builder for the championship team. Again, it's like going to the offensive coordinator of the Skins or something. This guy is not going to sit there with you and shoot the bull and actually ask you questions about you and for an hour. So then Randy walks me down, and in their exercise room, in their weight room, was John Hendrick and Ricky. These guys were working out. So I sat there with them while they were working out for another hour. And then they walked me down and introduced me to a guy named Ray Evernham. And Ray, again, I was absolutely amazed. Here is the Cup Series championship crew chief. Here I am, some dumb young reporter from the local TV station, not a national TV network, local TV station, and had me in and just talked forever. And we have been great friends ever since.
Fantastic. My question to you is, and I know when, excuse me, I'm overclamped. I worked both jobs today. Leave me alone. When did you learn you had the voice for broadcasting? I always tell people I have a voice for radio, and I also have a face for radio. When did you learn you had that golden voice?
My dad always told me I had a face for radio and a voice for newspaper.
Wow.
I really don't know, guys. I always just, but you know what? One of the mistakes I made, and my brother was in the TV business for quite some time as well, and still is somewhat. He's a few years older than I am. And when we had a cable TV station when I was a freshman in college. We had this little cable TV station, and I went there, and we did this little half-hour TV show, and that was actually, that was about the same time I was working for the little radio station at the same time. And I got on TV like anybody else. I was trying to be somebody I wasn't, I was trying to be like the perfect sportscaster dude, the guy. And I remember that night I watched the tape with my brother. We took the VHS tape. Again, this is how old I am. We took the VHS
I'm
tape.
not far behind you. I'm only 7 years behind you, my friend.
and popped it in the machine. And my brother goes, you want me to tell you, you okay if I tell you what I think? And well, of course I am. He goes, you're not going to get offended? No, he says, tell you what, man, I like the guy that's sitting next to me a hell of a lot better than that guy on the TV. I don't know who that guy is. It's not you.
That's something that somebody told me very early on is take your personality and just turn it up just a little bit higher.
Yeah, exactly. And don't try to be somebody else because that personality's already taken.
Exactly. Now, Corey can tell you this because Corey and I have traveled to many races together. The other two guys, one's in Ohio. Am I doing this right? Here, he's in Ohio.
Yes.
And he's in Alabama. We've never had the chance to meet in person, but Corey and I have been in races together. And the guy I am when I'm not in front of a camera or on a microphone, I do several podcasts, is not the guy I am in person until I put on the cowboy hat and piss Corey off.
No, I actually enjoy it, by the way.
I know. Cletus is not coming out no matter how much you ask. We're not doing it. So your brother's advice is golden. And take me from that day. How did you put that into your broadcasting world?
Well, I think that the best thing about it, the best thing that ever happened to me was Speed Channel. Because we had, and this is one of the reasons that I kind of found out later why the phone call came and why everything worked out at Speed Channel was that we had a young lady that was one of our producers at the CBS station, and we used to do the Friday night football show, and we just didn't have scripts. You had to know what you're talking about. And that really worked out better for me. I did better without scripts because again, that forced you to be completely yourself. When you're reading scripts, you're not necessarily yourself. And so she had gone to work for this NASCAR images group, and they said, "Hey, look, man, we're going to do a show without scripts. Anybody know anybody?" And she had thrown my name into the hat, and they said, because a lot of other people, when they talked to some other people, and they said, "Man, look, we are very uncomfortable. Where's the teleprompter? Where's the scripts?" And they said, "We need to use them." And so that was just for our little hour and a half show where we had no scripts. Well, when Speed Channel came to town, see, we were Fox Sports Net for 01 and 02. And then Speed Channel came about in 03. And so when Speed Channel came to Charlotte, we were in the same building because we were both owned by Fox. And Speed Channel, guys, I remember very clearly the first day of Speed Channel, they had asked us just kind of for some help. But then all of a sudden they said, "Man, we really need some help here." And just because I was standing in the building and had a pulse, they threw me on the air. And I do very clearly remember the first night going on at Speed Channel, there were dudes that that evening were screwing the cubicles together. They were bolting the cubicles together. This is how quick this whole thing. And we had to go on the air. And they had Daryl Waltrip, Larry McReynolds, and Jeff Hammond were in Daytona. And they were supposed to be live. Well, the technical stuff was going absolutely to hell in a handbasket. And we were back in the studio, and fortunately they had somebody to go to. And then there was a guy who I could talk about for the whole 90 minutes. I could tell Rick Minor stories for this entire 90 minutes, and you guys would not get. But Rick was a very gruff guy, and he said after that night, he said, "Nothing phases you, does it?" I go, "No." And he goes, "We can throw anything at you and not mess with you on the air, right?" I said, "Well, yeah." And so shortly thereafter, when they started doing all this programming from the racetrack, they just said, "Hey, look, man, we do not have time for all this programming to sit there and have somebody pound out scripts." So that really got rid of so many other on-air talent at Speed Channel because they didn't want to do it. And a lot of them, that wasn't their forte. So when the biggest thing was, we went down to, what was it, 2003. They said, "Hey, we need to fill 55 hours of programming during Speed Weeks. And want it to be you and Ken Squire. Are you in?" Oh, what are you going to say? No.
If you're working with Ken Squire, the answer is yes.
Yes, absolutely, 100%. And then after that, that really opened up the floodgates. All the Fox Sports Net programming went over to Speed Channel. And fortunately, I went with them, and that started, that 18-year run. Because when it came to an end, it's funny. You guys are very familiar with my old buddy Kenny Wallace. I was bummed. I mean, but Kenny Wallace always had a way of people always thought me and Kenny were just crazy, stupid people. But Kenny had a way of putting things in perspective, and I was kind of bummed about everything coming to an end. Kenny was ready to move on, and Kenny just goes, "Well, hell, JR, we're just finishing up our 18 years. MASH was only on the air for 9."
Oh, wow. The one thing I like about Kenny Wallace is that, he brings the driver perspective in, but when he gets into that Herman character, he is so funny. And the fact that, I wish it would have translated into his racing career, like his brother, who I am a huge fan of. I am a Rusty Wallace fan till the day I die. But Herm was the best. when it comes to like on the microphone and giving you a comedic perspective of NASCAR racing.
Yeah, I had known Kenny for many years as a driver. We had talked a lot at the racetrack, and he had, they were very clear that whether Kenny's driving or not, they really wanted him to work with us, and particularly to work with me. So the first night we did a show together, Kenny was leaving. And guys, I promise you this is true. He was ordering Hooters food to go.
Ooh.
You're missing the point here, dude. You don't really, the food just really isn't that good, and you don't really, but anyway, if that's what you do. And then, okay, so that was the first weekend, and then Kenny came in the next weekend, and he came walking in, and he said, we were watching the Formula One race from Bahrain, and Kenny goes, JR, where the hell is Bahrain? I never was too good at geometry.
Oh, Jesus.
Okay. But then, at the same time, though, Kenny would be the guy you could always go to. He was always ready, and he didn't like the scripts, and a lot of people along the way. Me and Kenny were together doing the broadcast on Speed Channel. And a lot of the other people that were with us came and went. Not just the bosses. The bosses came and went, and we were still there. The coworkers that we had came and went, and we were still there. And I just always felt a little bit of comfort, just like I felt a great deal of comfort always working with Darrell Waltrip and Larry McReynolds. They were always ready to go. They understood TV. They got it. And Kenny just understood it. He just got it. And right from the start, Kenny just looked at me. He said, man, look, I don't understand this TV stuff. He used a different word. He said, if you help me with that, and I'll help you with everything. I'll help you with the technical part of racing. And to this day, guys, we still talk. Me and Kenny still talk all the time. And it was funny. Kenny would always, like, just in the middle of a show, he would always break in to some Snoop Doggy Dogg rap songs. So I'll just, out of the blue, I wouldn't have talked to him for 2 or 3 weeks, and I'll just text him a couple of scores from a Snoop Doggy Dogg song.
Wow, I just watched the Medium show lose his stuff right there. Come on in, Tori. Tell us what it's all about. Come on now.
Hey, no, I totally understand where he comes from, because when people walk in my kitchen, they expect to hear hip hop, but you hear Five Finger Death Punch, Metallica, George Strait. You just never know. So whatever it is that gets you in that zone, I applaud it. No problem.
Yeah. So yeah, still to this day, guys, I send Kenny Wallace text messages with rap lyrics.
That is
nice.
One of the best stories I've ever heard. Now, I'm going to go into listening mode because I have questions later regarding, I want to say it was 2012, John, and further on into your retirement, technically, in 2018. But I'm going to pass this off to Corey, Jordan, and Tori, starting with you, Corey. Questions.
Alrighty, so John, you probably know this announcement by now, but so last week NASCAR announced that they're going to be having a street race in Chicago, and the Cup Series is going to be going there 4th of July weekend. Now, I know that NASCAR has never done a street race before, but now this has me kind of thinking, okay, we haven't raced in Chicago in like 3 years, and of course the last time we did was Chicagoland Speedway, and then ever since then we haven't raced in Chicago in particular because of the pandemic and so forth. But I kind of look at this and say, you know what, I think this is going to be good for the Chicago market, not only fans wise but also TV wise as well. So I just want to ask, from your perspective, what was your take on NASCAR announcing that they were going to have a street race for next year, and what do you expect for the cars to run on the streets in 2023?
Well, first of all, backing up a little bit, when NASCAR wanted to, and this was when Brian France was president, Brian had a fairly decent vision of being in the largest media markets in the country.
Right.
They couldn't get anything going in New York, market number one. So when you went to LA and you said, okay, NASCAR's going Hollywood, NASCAR's going LA, it really wasn't like that, guys. You landed in LA for the race, but then you drove about a good hour and a half inland to you could be in Ontario, California, and Fontana and have absolutely no idea whatsoever there was a race going on there. Same thing, Chicago, market number 3 in the country at the time. You wanted to race in a big market, but Chicagoland really, guys, was a different world away from Chicago. You went from Chicago through all of those, Naperville, all the suburbs. You went way beyond the suburbs to get to Chicagoland Speedway. Once you got down there, it really didn't have that much to do with the Chicago market in and of itself. And also, I really think you need local media to embrace your product in order to really be racing in a city. LA local TV did not give a dang that except for after the first year. First year, yeah, it was a big deal. Second year, ghost town, no LA local coverage of that race. Same thing with Chicago. First year, Chicago media market came down to Joliet, covered it, never came back again, and that hurt you. Now, as we move forward, I was always a really big fan of a street course race to begin with. Years ago, there were whispers about it, but it never actually got much traction until Steve Phelps and company, until they got past that. There was a 5-year contract with all these racetracks because it used to always be just a 1-year deal. When Mike Helton was in charge of things, he said, okay, I'm going to give you guys a 5-year, everybody gets a 5-year deal. That way you can go to your sponsors, you go to your fans. So I'm going to have a race in this city at this time for 5 years. Well, when that went away, that opened up this opportunity to go to different things. So guys, just as fans last year, me and my wife went to the street course race, the Indy race in Nashville. And it was absolutely a fan. Now, from a motorsports perspective, I think we're pretty discerning fans here. I understand that the racing wasn't spectacular from the IRL drivers and from your IRL purists. But guys, it was a spectacle. It was great for the Indy Racing League. It was great for the city. Now, of course, there are people out there afterwards, and there's going to be people too after Chicago. I guarantee there's going to be people who say, well, there wasn't enough passing. There wasn't enough pure racing. But guys, again, give this thing more of a chance. If anybody has any reservations about it. Now, I say this, knowing full well that it could not be that good of an event, but it is going to be, like you said, to the Chicago market, it is going to be an incredibly different ball game to be in the streets of Chicago in that number 3 media market in the country, as opposed to being way down the road at Joliet, which is more famous for the prison than the racetrack. And
the Blues Brothers.
Yeah, the Blues Brothers. Yeah, this is as much as you try to make Blues Brothers. Guys, I think this is a wildly positive thing. And we had some naysayers win the Busch Clash, because who would have imagined who would have ever imagined?
That was going to be my question before I throw it to Jordan, is what did you think of the clash at the Coliseum? Because I, for one, on a quarter-mile track, when you have these high-powered cars, and look, right up the road for me is Waterford Speed Bowl. Not too far from me, where Corey and I just watched SRX, is Stafford Motor Speedway. There's a lot of great racetracks in our area that are smaller that you wouldn't imagine that these big cars would be on. And here was the clash at the Coliseum with these big, high-powered, high-horsepowered NASCAR cars, drivers, etc., so forth. They're riding on a football field that they configured into a racetrack. I thought it was entertaining. What did you think?
Well, I thought it was fantastic, and it was, but because, and also, we being serious race fans and being people that watch it, of course, we're looking for that quality pass. But man, guys, I've always told, I was fortunate enough in early life to go to 4 different Super Bowls. Out of my 4 Super Bowls I covered, 3 of them were dogs with fleas.
Tell
It
me,
was
please.
terrible.
Tell me, please, you never covered an Atlanta Super Bowl because they were both garbage, and I'm an Atlanta fan.
Well, the 2 in Atlanta. Oh yeah, those were the one. It was.
I'm talking about when the Falcons were in the Super Bowl.
No, it was.
Thank you. All
yeah,
right.
it was Buffalo, Miami. No, I'm sorry, Minneapolis. It was Buffalo Skins.
Okay.
26 Super Bowl 26, and Redskins 37, Bills 17.
Okay.
But Ernest Biner scored the first touchdown. But
God bless Ernest Biner. Former Brown, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't he with the Browns?
It was. Yes.
Yeah.
Was.
I'm old.
And then a couple in Atlanta, 2 in Atlanta, and then the Miami one. And they were crappy games, guys, but they were the Super Bowl. They were the event. And so that's just my whole point about that is when you take these race cars to the LA Coliseum, I think people right away were saying, well, they can't put on the kind of show. But then again, though, you got to remember, guys, there's probably, I don't know what the percentage is. You can't really put a number on the percentage. There's a percentage of people that are going to hoot and holler and say, man, that was a crappy game because it was a baseball game that ended 1-0. They're going to say that was a crappy football game because it ended with 3 field goals, 6-3. But then there's the rest of the people that say, hey, man, I was there. I saw my heroes. I saw this show. I think the effect of the LA Coliseum race, no matter who wins, no matter how many passes there are, it expanded the market to people that don't normally see it in a city that doesn't normally see it, and also makes that difference between that Fontana racetrack is not in LA. It's a far cry. And I don't really care, honestly, guys. I don't care how many passes for the lead there are in Chicago. I don't care if there's 1. I don't care if there's 20. What it's going to be is it's going to be NASCAR's Top Series, the heroes, the superstars, blasting through a street with the Chicago skyline behind it. It's going to be iconic, and it's going to open people's eyes. And I'm telling you, you guys know this. When you just simply watch an auto race on TV, if that's all you've ever done, because that's all I did growing up until, and again, I hate to admit this, yes, 1992, till I finally went to a race myself the first time, and you hear the sounds, you smell the smells, you see it first, then they got me. You got me as a fan.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. I'm going to piggyback your point, John, just for a bit, and then I'm going to throw it to Jordan because I know he's got questions. What we've heard for years is, oh, well, it's just oval tracks and there's only 2 road courses. Now they throw a couple more road courses. Oh, well, we need more of this. Then they throw more of this. What is it that NASCAR is missing? And I think the Chicago street race is going to add another element to it. But what would make the fringe fan, in your opinion, come into the sport when the complaint is they go in circles too much? Okay, we're going to add more road courses. Oh, well, they don't do this. They don't do that. They don't do this. What will bring that fringe fan into the limelight where they can see how awesome this sport is?
Well, I think the biggest thing is to get to the markets that aren't saturated right now, is to get, because again, you can go watch something on an oval. I'm a huge fan of road course racing, always have been. And I always thought that one of the things that a lot of the crew chiefs had said in the past, and I agree with this, when you used to just go to 2 road courses a year and everybody put so much money and effort into a certain car, at least with the super speedway car, you got 4 chances for all this research, development, all this goes into it, this particular car. The guys were saying, look, if we put all this research and development into making a certain car go fast and do well, we need more than 2 chances a year. You had 2 opportunities a year to run your road course program, and that wasn't enough for these guys. They said either get rid of all road course racing or give us more. And I'm glad they opted for more. But we have a fella up the road here, just a couple miles down the road, runs a business that we run into a lot. And he was telling me just the other day, he's an old dirt track racer. He has a dirt car, and he runs dirt car, and has his son run a dirt car. And he was always a big race fan, always watched NASCAR, but went away when everybody was just saying, oh, well, I just simply don't watch NASCAR anymore, and never had any really rhyme or reason as to why to do it. And he said what drove them back, and now they watch every week, is the fact that they do some dirt track racing right now. So I think you're covering everything with the super short tracks, right? I mean, you're running on a quarter mile, right? You have short tracks, and fans are clamoring for more short tracks. I don't know if there's room really for more. We have a great, Martinsville, Bristol, Richmond, great short tracks right now, and plenty of them. But what I really think you need to do to bring in more people, if you look at the map of the United States, and you just put darts on the map of where the racetracks are, there's a huge gap in the Northwest. Now, in the Northwest, years ago, NASCAR tried to go up there, and they lobbied people around Seattle, a huge market, huge area with a lot of fans. There's racing up there. It's that area gave us Greg Biffle and Casey Kane. There are racers up there, but the people around Seattle didn't quite understand it. They just said, man, this is, look, this is an environmental hazard. It's a noise hazard. It's traffic. We don't want it. Go away. And they voted it down. So now and my jury's still out just a little bit on the Portland race for the Xfinity Series. Yeah, I liked it. I thought it was cool. I thought the crowd looked really good. But I think when you look at the quadrants of the United States, the Northeast is covered. The Southeast sure as heck is covered. The Southwest is covered. The Northwest is not. Try to get around there. Try to open up those markets. And I think that's probably going to be the next thing. But I always said that they're going to do something now. Every year, I'm a huge fan of Steve Phelps. Always have been. Awesome dude, and a forward thinker. And he's always the fact is he's open to anybody. Because man, I remember, guys, when we first started doing the old NASCAR This Morning show. That was one thing that somebody always said, so, well, I always, why are we doing this? Well, that's the way we've always done it. It just works the way we've always done it. One of the dangerous things you ever can say is just, that's the way we've always done it. But now,
I agree with you.
Yeah. These guys have thrown that out. And so there's going to be a bombshell every year on the schedule. This time around, it was the Chicago Street Course. Who knows what it's going to be next time, but if I had anything to say with it, I'd try to get that Cup Series somewhere in the Northwest.
Well, one of the things I want to say before I throw it to Jordan over here is I've always thought that Iowa Speedway would be a fantastic addition to the Cup Series. But what do you take off? If you ask me, we just left the place we should take off. Pocono is like watching paint dry, except for this year where the new car really brought an extra added bonus. The racing was good. It's the first time I was actually invested and excited watching the Pocono race. But if you want to tell me that Iowa is going to come on, who do we take off? Pocono's out. Your thoughts before I throw it to Jordan.
I got to tell you, honestly, in the past, I have not been a fan of Pocono. When we went to Pocono, the crowds weren't that great. The racing never really was that great. But now, and also what I thought the problem was, I said, this is not the most scintillating racetrack in the world. The thought process of this being 90 miles from Philadelphia and New York, again, media market number 1 and media market number 4. It didn't work. People didn't come from the cities. Very few did. And you had trouble filling up 70,000 seats. And even though you had trouble filling up 70,000 seats, it still took you 3 hours to get out of the place. And then again, that was, I remember at one point, and I can say this now because it's past, me, Kenny Wallace, and Kyle Petty, it was when they still had that 500 miler there.
Yeah.
The 500 miler, it was a blistering hot day, and we normally would go in this office, but we went in the infield into one of those, those super duper mega buses that they used to bring in for us that we never used to sit in. All 3 of us fell dead asleep. and we're woken up with about 10 laps to go, and we barely made it down there to Victory Lane.
Well, Corey,
Really
you just got your answer. John Roberts says it, and I say it. Pocono sucks.
So,
all right, I agree.
Yeah. So here's though, guys. I can say this now again because past tense. So our buddy Kenny Wallace, man, he had not been home in almost 3 months, and he needed to get home. He wanted to get home, spend a couple days at the house, and so he came up to me Sunday morning. He said, "Hey, look, man. After this is all said and done," he said, "I need to get to the Scranton Airport." And he said, "I know you're sick," because everybody used to always try to get out of the track so fast at night. I used to just get the flight the next morning and not hassle it, man, go back, chill out, and not worry so much about getting out of there. But Kenny's so wound up that he's got to get out of there. So we had our production manager. She had taken a golf cart around turn 1 and out to the tunnel turn in turn 2 to make sure that you could drive that whole way around, because what they used to do from the media compound, they used to put us on the racetrack, and you sit on a racetrack about an hour before you get out of there. So she took the golf cart around there and proved that you could actually drive a vehicle through this field to get out there. So I get in my rental car, and I got Kenny Wallace in there, and he got us about 40 minutes to make an hour drive to Scranton. And
wow.
So, guys, I am hauling butt through about a foot-high grass, and it's whacking the side view mirrors, and Kenny's going, "Go, go, go." So we get out there. Well, the tunnel, the people are coming out of the tunnel, and I'm on the grass, and the state cop looks at me, and he blows the whistle and just gives me the stop. Because I'm on the grass, I'm trying to get on the road. And so Kenny says, "Johnny, man, if anything happens, I got your back. But man, he looks the other way, you got to go." So he looked at us, and he was trying to stop the traffic in this direction. And he turned, and he put his hand out there, and I nailed the accelerator over the curb and got out on the road. And we're hauling butt. We get out to 81, and we're driving down the road, and Kenny's going, "Go, Johnny, go." I'm hauling butt, breaking all kinds of laws.
Oh, my goodness.
Trying to get there. And so we go driving up to the Scranton Airport, and Kenny is so excited because he's going to get home. So he's flying on one of Jack Roush's airplanes. And so he calls the lady from Roush Air, and he says, "Listen, man, we're pulling up to the airport. Are you guys at the small private airport, or are you at the main airport?" And what the small private airport, they called it an FBO for some reason. I don't know what that stood for, but FBO. And she goes, "Kenny, there's no FBO here. There's only a main terminal." And he goes, no, to the right's the FBO, to the left is main terminal. And she goes, "Where are you at?" And he goes, "I'm in Scranton." And she goes, "We're in Allentown."
Oh, jeez.
We were at the wrong airport.
Oh, man, that sucks.
You guys would not believe the look on Kenny Wallace's face. He thought
I can imagine.
he was stuck, and he was going to spend the night with me in Scranton instead of going home.
Oh,
and
my
man, just out of nowhere, here comes old Casey Kane walking by. Kenny goes, "Casey, if I can ride back with you on your plane, man." I said, "Come on, Kenny, come on, let's go."
Oh, my Lord.
Wow.
So we were at the wrong airport.
Oh, my Lord.
Wow.
As I throw it to Jordan for his question, the only thing I can say is you've been through the dirt and back, and God bless you, my friend.
At Pocono, too. Dirt at Pocono.
Oh, I hate Pocono so much. Jordan, what do you got for John Roberts?
Okay.
Every episode. Jordan?
I'm here. First off, these Kenny Wallace stories are hilarious. Second of all, I actually have a question. It's from my mother. She was a big Casey Kane fan, and she wanted to know what Casey was like as a person.
Guys, Casey Kane was so cool. He was such a wonderfully nice guy. He was just shy. And he was a racer. He wasn't really, and a lot of guys have had that issue over the years. I say it's an issue. It's really not that big of an issue. Dale Earnhardt was a perfect example. Dale Earnhardt was a racer and just a farmer. He was he dropped out of 8th grade. He wasn't polished. And he didn't like these huge throngs of media around him. He just wanted to race a car, but he understood and he embraced it over the years. And there was one thing that is one of my favorite things I ever got to do because I really believed in it. But guy called me up one time and he said, hey, he was from Allstate. And you remember Casey had those funny Allstate commercials with the ladies chasing him. And so they said, hey, we're going with Casey on behalf of Allstate to high schools to talk about distracted driving, talk about texting and driving. And they said Casey doesn't want to go by himself. And he had mentioned something that he felt comfortable with you. They needed a loudmouth to go with Casey because he was a little bit shy. Because what we were doing was, it was funny. We were supposed to go do media tours in the morning and then go to a local high school in the afternoon. And the whole high school, would be in the gym. And but it's funny how quickly it changed from me and Casey doing the 6 a.m. media tour to just me doing the 6 a.m.ers. But then I'd meet up with Casey at the high school and we would have these, but, got to spend a lot of time with him because of that program. And we used to fly on his plane to these things. I'm going to tell you guys, Casey Kane is amongst the nicest guys, not just in terms of drivers, but one of the nicest, highest class guys. And he, by the way, we ran into him not too long ago at a restaurant in Cornelius, North Carolina. And he's just hanging out with his son, having a great time. And he is loving life. He occasionally drives a dirt car. He drives it for his own team in the World of Outlaws occasionally. But he is living the dream, has an absolute ton of coin, and is just taking care of his kid and being a dad. And I can tell you very honestly, it is really, really hard to say anything negative about Casey Kane. He's a great dude.
Oh, no.
If my ex-wife ever watches this, which she won't, that was her favorite driver. So, Stephanie, you win. Casey Kane is a hell of a dude. We're going to throw it to the medium show. Tori Calhoun and Tori, you got any questions for John Roberts?
Honestly, probably maybe a couple. You got to forgive me. I'm outside right now. I love being outside of my job. If they didn't tell
I like it, man. I like where you're at.
You should see the food porn he puts out.
Oh yeah.
Tori is a master.
I just try my best. But thank you. If I had to ask any question, it'd be like, I don't know if you said this already, but were you nervous when you first went live?
Not at all. It's funny. My wife always says she can't. So my wife doesn't like to be in front of a camera at all, and or in front of a microphone. I always try to get her to do it because quite frankly, she looks a lot better on a camera than I do. But it was funny. We were doing in 2012. I was because of a bad set of circumstances. I was hosting the Daytona 500, and one of my bosses at the time, Scott Ackerson, he loved to try to give me a hard time. And so he went in the production truck and pressed the button that went into my ear. And he said, hey, Johnny, I don't want you to be nervous or anything, but in about 3 minutes from now, there'll be about 18 million people watching you, but I don't want you to be nervous or anything. And I said, well, Scott, I said, man, that really upsets me because I was really hoping it'll be more like 20. So, but yeah, guys, that's one thing I got to tell you honestly. I just don't really remember the time of being nervous because it's just what I always wanted to do. And I tell you, one time I was actually a little bit nervous was we had to do a screen test for the NASCAR This Morning show. And because that's a long story in and of itself, they hired us. They gave us the gig, and then they said, whoa, wait a minute. We can't really give you this job yet. Y'all got to do a screen test. And I got to admit, I was a little bit nervous that time because this was like, kind of make or break thing. Because I had already quit my other job. I quit. So I don't have a job here. And if this screen test doesn't go well, man, I love that to death. And also, they had old Wayne Estes, great guy from Bristol. Wayne had called one time and said, hey, we want to try something different this year. do you mind doing our driver intros on the PA at Bristol? And I said, yeah, that's cool. I'd love to. And so that was with that was back in the day. That's 162,000 people live for you. That's not just looking at a camera wondering who's out there. There's 162 grand looking at you there. But yeah, once you check your nose and once you check your fly and everything was all right, it's just all right, no problem.
All right, Jordan, you had a question. Go ahead.
Yeah, so this goes back to, I want to say, 2002 Pennsylvania 500 when Steve Park and Dale Earnhardt Jr. got into it and collided and basically barrel rolled up against the guardrail. My mom, being the big Steve Park fan as she was back in her house when that crash happened. What were your thoughts when you saw that crash happen?
Well, I remember that so well. And boy, the way that whole thing happened, because, again, these guys are I'd say Steve Park at the time a little bit more than Dale Jr. I'd known Steve pretty well. And, these guys are our friends, because you're with them every weekend. And I remember that very clearly. But I also remember how relieved I was to see them get out of the car and check on each other and everything was okay. And I actually, I believe it was our friend, if I'm not mistaken, a guy by the name of Don Russell was in that, one of the video cameraman, the camera operator, was in that camera stand. And boy, did he show, for lack of a better term, some guts by hanging in there. I mean, those cars were barrel rolling at his scaffold and he didn't flinch, man. He stood there. But that was a huge relief. Yeah, I remember that one really, really well. I also remember something over the years we had just gotten to, one reason or another, I guess maybe because we both had spent a lot of time in Virginia, that I've become pretty good buddies with Elliott Sadler. We had done a lot of stuff away from the track together. And Elliott, when he was in the number 19 Air Force car for Abraham Gillette, had hit the dirt barrier at Pocono. At the time, the highest G-force ever in an accident, the highest recorded G-force for a race car. Elliott got out of that car and sat down. That again, I remember that being an absolutely huge relief that he was okay after that, because that was a wicked hit.
Yeah.
All right, Corey, you had a question?
All right. So I want to go to this season, which, of course, we have a new car, and a lot of people, we're questioning, okay, how is this new car going to race on all tracks this season? And sure enough, we've seen some good races with this next-gen car. But the one thing that actually kind of surprised me, but then yet again, it excites me the most, is that now we have 14 different winners, which I kind of said this a while back. Once everybody starts to get to know this new car, you're pretty much going to see almost every team run close to the front or run in the top 10 almost every week. Heck, Corey LaJoie almost won the race at Atlanta 2 weeks ago. Then he ends up crashing out. And then you see Roush Fenway Keselowski, running the top 10 most of the week. And then you see all these other teams running the top 10 most of the weeks and so on. So I just want to give your take, John. What do you take away about this season so far? And do you think, in your opinion, do you think we're going to get to 16 different winners before we reach to the playoffs in September?
I think we are. I think we're going to fill up the field with original winners.
Thank you.
Question. Because there's just guys out there that are too good that haven't won yet, and there's these wild card races we have too. I mean, look at the 2 road course races of the season so far have given us first time winners. Yeah. And so if we get somebody else that jumps up there, and if anybody can complain all they want to, and in fact, I had a Twitter message from a guy today. He said, well, the only team that's won that's anyway a surprise this season is Trackhouse. And I said, okay, yeah, no, that's a pleasant surprise. But are you telling me that it's not a surprise to you that Tyler Reddick finally won? Chase Briscoe finally won? All those guys out there, those are refreshing surprises. They're not the usual suspects. If it's a first-time winner, it's a surprise winner. And so many people had told me, and I couldn't believe when people said this, there's only one major league sport in our society that has embraced somebody winning all the time, and that is the PGA Tour. When Tiger Woods was kicking everybody's ass, everybody loved it.
Yeah.
Because that was because of Tiger's personality, because of the PGA Tour not really getting so much hype in the beginning. But when Jimmy Johnson was kicking everybody's butt, everybody started saying, well, I'm sick of watching racing. Jimmy Johnson wins all the time. Okay, Troy Aikman goes out there and wins the 3 Super Bowls. Well, I'm sick of watching the NFL. Troy Aikman wins every damn thing. I don't like him. Parity is something, that's the reason that you have the lottery in the NBA. That's the reason that the crappiest team gets the first pick in the NFL. You want that parity, and that was what NASCAR was striving for with this car. They didn't want the rich to keep getting richer. And Corey LaJoie is basically driving the same car that Kyle Busch is, basically. And so when you put that together and you get this opportunity to see these other guys, it's no longer a rich get richer story. It's no longer the same dudes all the time. And although many of the normal suspects have already won and won a lot, especially like Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson, all the guys at Kyle Busch, Denny, all those guys have been up there and winning. You still have some of these other drivers that are running in the top 10 that don't normally, and also are winning races that don't normally. Parity is good for professional sports, period.
I am going to piss off 2 members of this panel.
Oh, boy.
And I already know their names.
One of them going to be me?
No.
No.
I may or may not mention their names, but their initials are Jordan and Corey.
Okay.
Talking about what you just said and how the lower end teams and the higher end teams and yada yada, I go by the Steinbrenner rule. Put your money on the field. If you put your money on the field rather than in your pocket, you do better. Now, in racing, we see, obviously Hendrick, amazing. Stuart Haas right now, and I want to ask you about Kevin Harvick 2 years ago, because I'm really verklempt over the fact that he hasn't won since 2000. If you put your money into the team rather than putting into your pocket, you find victory. So why is this not in every sport, whether it's baseball, racing, football, etc.? If you put your money on the field, you will find victory. I call it the Steinbrenner rule. John, if you could give me just a couple seconds, 30 seconds, 90 seconds, I don't care if you take a half hour. Is the Steinbrenner rule, could the Steinbrenner rule work in NASCAR?
Well, it used to, okay? It used to. So now there is a reason that right now you see I am, probably America's biggest, if not one of the biggest Tar Heel basketball fans. And I love Tar Heel basketball. So, of course, I, worship the ground that Michael Jordan walked on.
You're going to hate me. You're going to hate me, but I'm a Duke guy.
That's all right. I don't particularly dislike Duke. I just really like the Tar Heels. But Michael Jordan is no dummy, right? There's a reason that there's a B in front of his name. Michael Jordan does not get involved in this sport unless there is this next generation race car, and unless he had somebody like Denny Hamlin that was in it that he knew and he partnered with, and of course Joe Gibbs having a hand in this thing. So if you're talking about what a team can invest and what they, but before it was just the idea of the rich getting richer, because if a team like Hendrick Motorsports or Joe Gibbs Racing goes out there, there was no, and that again is why they went to this car instead of there was a talk of a salary cap, right? The salary cap just would not have worked, and it would take a long time to explain why. The salary cap in racing and motorsports just would not work like it does to keep the playing field level in the stick and ball sports. The thing that works now is this next generation race car, and that's why we have guys the likes of Michael Jordan, Pitbull. These guys did not get in there because they want to hang out on the racetrack. These are smart businessmen. Again, There is a reason why there's a B in front of Michael's name. It's for billionaire. There's a B in front of Rick Hendrick's name. It's for billionaire. But there was a time not too long ago where Rick Hendrick and a lot of other owners were just simply hemorrhaging cash because to get ahead, perfect example, the air gun. Joe Gibbs Racing goes out and spends a couple $1 million on research and development and makes this super duper air gun, right? So they're beating everybody on the pit stops. Well, NASCAR sees that and says, look, okay, not everybody has Joe Gibbs money. We got to make an air gun rule. So they make the air gun rule, right? Now everybody buys the same gun, same thing. They go, okay, everybody buys the same body. You buy it from here. Everybody buys the same chassis. You buy it from here. Everybody buys the lug nuts from Richard Childress Racing. Everybody buys body components from Roush Fenway Racing. And these guys were awarded this thing. So when you start bringing in people, businessmen and women from different walks of life that bring them in there, it takes you away from that Steinbrenner rule. It takes you away from being able to hemorrhage cash and the rich just simply getting richer because these guys aren't stupid. They didn't want to be involved in this. And one of the owners who this was, over a couple glasses of Cabernet, so I won't say his name, but a few years ago, he just told me, he said, look, man, I would be out of this thing right now because I'm hemorrhaging cash. But there's about 150 people whose livelihood revolves around me being in this sport. But now, guys, we've switched that around. There is a limit to what you can spend. You can try to go find ways to spend stuff. You can pay your people more and get better people. But that's about the limit of what you can do. And I like that fact because, again, this is not like just because, in the NFL, you go out, you buy your helmet and your shoulder pads, and you get out there and you play football. In auto racing, you have this big machine and all these moving parts and all this research and development that goes into it. So you're able to hemorrhage cash if you want to. And
so please allow me to stop you. So if you're Michael Jordan, who has, I hate to say it, but I'm going to say it, FU money.
Oh, yeah, clearly.
Versus a guy like Emmett Smith, who also has FU money. We'll get to that question in just a second, Caleb. Keep that up there. Emmett Smith is currently funding Jesse Iwuji's Xfinity car, but Jesse Iwuji has not had the success. Is it the money? Is it the car? Is it the driver? I mean, I'm looking for reasons when, especially going back to New Hampshire, where Corey and I were both in the stands, and the week before, Bubba Wallace and Christopher Bell switched teams, at least the pit crew teams, and Christopher Bell finds victory lane, and Bubba Wallace, albeit comes in third, but Bubba has to be a little upset that that's my team, and they just went to victory lane. How much does the money make the team?
Well, it's now when you talk about Emmett Smith and Jesse Iwuji, you're talking about the Xfinity series right now, which is still under that old business model. It's under a better business model.
I agree.
But it still is under that old model where you can. But that's one of the good things about it, though, is Emmett Smith doesn't have Michael Jordan money, but these guys are able, with Emmett's backing, to go out there and get a fairly decent car and put it on the racetrack. That's one of the things that I've always liked about racing and about motorsports. If you can get a car and a driver that can get qualified, this field is open to you. You can get in. But the problem is as you go up, it used to cost so much more money. So now they have made this playing field so level at the cup level right now. But at Xfinity, you're still up against some haves and have-nots, okay? So, and again, even though Michael has a ton of money, guys, let's remember the model of racing that was set up by Richard Petty many years ago was, if at all possible, you do not dig in your own pocket to go racing. What you do is you put Denny Hamlin and Michael Jordan in that brand together, and therefore you go out and get McDonald's, who has the coin. McDonald's gives you $12 million or so to get on your race car, that's what you go racing with. All right. So normally you don't have guys, and that's now some people have done that in the past. And if you look at somebody like Rick Hendrick, and you might say with Kyle Larson at first, remember, Kyle Larson hit the road with HendrickCars.com.
Yep.
Still not necessarily, guys, Mr. Hendrick reaching in his pocket and paying for that car. Now, Gene Haas did that with Kurt Busch, okay? Different story there. But with the other scenario there, they weren't reaching in their pocket to go racing. It was the sponsor that jumped on that because HendrickCars.com has an advertising budget as a business. So they want to be on a race car because what a better place to be. That's not Rick digging in his pocket to do that. But there are cases out there where people do dig in their pockets to do that. So you put somebody together. And I got to tell you guys something I did not realize many, many years ago, and it opened my eyes. Remember Hall of Fame Racing?
Yes.
Reigns, number 96?
Yep.
Hall of Fame Racing, Roger Staubach, Troy Aikman?
Yes.
But how nice. These guys, Staubach and Aikman, are digging into their pockets to pay to go racing in Hall of Fame Racing. The guys who owned Hall of Fame Racing paid Aikman and Staubach to put their name on the car so they could go to Texas Instruments and DLP and get a sponsor for the race car. They paid those dudes. They weren't really part of the ownership there. So there's different scenarios for different levels, different scenarios for different race teams.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, Billy Saunders was one of the drivers. I can't remember. Was it? Oh God, my head's gonna explode. Ron Fellows.
Okay.
Was that who they put out on the track?
Well, Ron did a lot of one-off things, especially on the road courses.
Tony Raines.
Tony Raines.
Thank you.
Yeah, Tony Raines was in the 96 of Hall of Fame Racing.
Yes, thank you.
And again, guys, I forget who it was for Frank Cece when he had Jim Kelly. He was partners with Jim Kelly. Cece was paying Kelly to be part of the deal. Oh, Randy LaJoy.
Yeah, it was the vein is gonna pop out. DLP. DLP was on the front of the car, right?
Yeah, sure was.
Yes.
I
I
outstatted Stat Boy.
Well, I was going to say there was actually one race in 2006 at Sonoma. Do you guys remember when Terry Labonte drove the 96 car and he almost came close to winning that race?
Yep.
And of course, you know who won the race that day was Jeff Gordon.
Yep.
And and of course, when Terry Labonte, of course, he was a good road racer at the time too. But I remember that one Hall of Fame racing moment was when Terry drove for one race in the 96, and I thought that was pretty cool.
John, watch this. Hey, Corey.
What's up?
Who won the 2001 Mountain Dew Southern 500?
All right. I'm going to answer your... okay.
Show me your hand. Show me your hand so you're not going to the Google machine.
All right. I'm going to answer your question. Okay. I'm going to answer your question, then I'm going to ask John a question about the Nashville race.
I'm just showing off your skills.
All right. So I'm going to say Ward Burton won the Southern 500 in 2001. And John, do you remember who won the IndyCar race at the streets in Nashville? Oh, my goodness. All right. Do you give up?
This man has seen more racing. This man has seen more racing than any one of us will ever see. And you're asking
I'll give you a minute if I have to, but if you want, I know the answer. So
killing me.
All right.
I forget, guys. I completely forget.
Okay, so the guy that won the IndyCar race, and if you guys remember, Marcus Ericsson won the race in Nashville, and that was actually the race where he kind of flew up in the air just a little bit, came back down, and then he came back and won the race. And I remember watching it that day, and I was like, how a guy flew up in the air and then still races, comes back and wins the race in an IndyCar. Yeah. I have literally no idea. To this day, I have no idea.
I guess I was there and I don't remember.
Yeah. Well, that was a fun race, though. I love that race.
I can tell you the starting lineup for the 1985 Kansas City Royals.
George Brett Saberhagen, Ozzy. No, oh God, what's his name?
Chris, you got
Willie Wilson. Give
Willie
me a second.
Aiken.
Oh, that's all I got. Aiken. Oh, what was his name? What was it? Willie Aiken?
Willie Aiken.
That's all I got.
Was Jim Sundberg.
Sundberg.
Popeye Balcone.
Who was the pitcher? Underhand Quisenberry.
Quiz the Whiz.
Oh my Lord! What a great time to be alive. George Brett is still my favorite third baseman of all time.
And the the manager was
of that team, Dick Hauser.
Dick Hauser, nicely done.
Yes. See, you guys can learn from me.
But see, that's the problem. 85 still remains. This time last year does not. It's gone.
Who blew the 86 World Series?
Joaquin Andujar.
Bill Buckner.
Oh, Buckner. Yeah.
I remember that.
Andujar blew the 85. Yeah, Buckner was 86.
Who hit the bloop single in the 2000 World Series that cost the Yankees a championship?
That I don't know.
Craig Counsell.
Yeah, wait, 2000 World Series?
Yes, 2001.
2001.
Diamondbacks.
Because the Yankees won in 2000.
Elgon, Luis Gonzalez crossed the plate, and it was all over for me.
I was in college in the 80s. I don't remember most of the 80s.
That's fine. I watch the World Series no matter who's in it. It's all good. I have two questions for you, and whatever the guys want to do, that's fine. But you've interviewed or talked to or have been in the presence of probably every NASCAR driver up until your retirement in 2018, and now you're doing the SiriusXM show. Who was your favorite driver to talk to?
Oh man, guys, I honestly can say this. There's just not one. There's so many that I absolutely love to talk to for different reasons. That there was, I just kind of hit it off way back in the day when Jeff Gordon had the little swirly mustache and the mullet. Therefore, I just had always had a really great relationship with Jeff. In fact, we still talk every once in a while to this day. Always loved talking to Jeff. Always entertaining to talk to either of the Walter brothers. They were always entertaining. But I got to tell you, one of my favorite moments in NASCAR interviewing history was that there were we're at 2003 Daytona 500. When we went down there, Ward Burton was the defending race champion.
Yes.
And so he was sitting next to me on the set. We're gonna open up the show with Ward on the set with us. And so it was about 5 minutes before we were ready to go. Ward came up, sat down, and he tapped me on the leg. And at the time, there were three young ladies that were in these very tight white outfits that were running around Victory Lane below us. And they had appeared in a certain publication that caters to men that I'm not aware of. They had been in this certain magazine or whatever, and they're known as the Dom triplets. And so
I'm going to the Google machine right now. I got to find out who these
DAHM triplets. And
DAHM, I got you.
I don't know the name of the magazine. But anyway, so they were running around there, and they were causing quite a stir. And so Ward Burton taps me on the knee and goes, Hey, JR, you seen them Dom twins? There's three of them.
Oh my goodness.
Classic Ward Burton at no end. So always loved it. But man, guys, I loved talking on the air to Bobby Labonte, but then I always spent a lot of time off the air talking to Bobby. Bobby's fantastic. Dale Jarrett was always great to talk to. Over the years, man, Mark Martin. Now, Mark Martin, the thing about Mark Martin and Ryan Newman both, they would clam up on you a little bit when you had the camera on them. If you got the camera away from them, they were fantastic. There were a lot of crew chiefs that I'd always go up to and talk to, again, off camera to learn what was going on. Chad Knaus was just always a great friend, great guy to talk to. Man, guys, the list just goes on and on in terms of guys. Now, if you could get everybody away from them, you could have a great conversation with Dale Sr. and Dale Jr. But when you're around the racetrack, I mean, there's just no getting to the guys because they just got mobbed. And boy, Carl Edwards was always great. Love talking to Carl Edwards. Always brought him out. And really, man, guys, just so hard to put a finger on one of the best, and also one of the two interviews over the years that I really remember. Bobby Hamilton had just announced that he had terminal neck cancer.
Yeah.
Right.
And we spoke on the air. That was a live on the air interview with me and him when he made that announcement. That was something that I'll really never forget. How matter of fact he was.
Yeah.
What a great dude he was. And then not after Adam Petty died, but the week after Adam Petty had an accident in an ASA car. Adam had run over his crew chief, one of his best friends.
Oh, wow.
Oh, no.
ASA car. They're trying to fix a car. They had it up on a jacks, and right before they dropped the jack, the crew chief didn't tell anybody.
Oh.
He kind of dove under the car to grab a hold of something. They dropped the jack, and being a race car driver, you're trained to hit the gas. Well, Adam wasn't ready to talk about it. I actually did talk to Adam about it a few months later. But the weekend after that, I had a little sit-down interview with Richard Petty with the King. And that was really, really amazing because he also, at the same time, told me something I didn't know. That when he had his breakup with NASCAR for a couple years, the King went drag racing. And he lost control of his car and went up in the stands and killed a kid. I did not know that.
Wow.
When he talked about his tragedy at the racetrack, I thought it was the guy that had died when the air tank blew up. One of Richard's air tanks blew up way back in the day.
Ooh.
That wasn't what he was talking about. He was talking about the drag racing accident. So it was really, really interesting, amazing moments. And then the first time winners that we got to talk to right out of the race car in Victory Lane over the years were again fantastic.
Who's your favorite? Of the first time winners, you have these guys. No, I know a lot of you guys are of the first time winners, you're the first guy to talk to them.
Okay, gotta say, all right, when Martin Truex won at Dover.
Okay, fair. That's awesome.
Yes.
The day Bill France Jr. died. Bill France Jr. died that day.
2007.
Martin Truex, won the race at Dover. That was absolutely amazing. And his parents were there, his girlfriend was there, everybody, there wasn't a dry eye around. That was fantastic. That was probably number one. Another one was Casey Mears at Charlotte and Coke 600.
Nice.
That family was around there. That was really, really huge. And Regan Smith at Darlington, that was a really big first timer.
2011.
That was a good one. Again, if I'd have to pick one, I'd say Martin, but they were all really, really special.
I brought up something earlier, and I'm kind of interested in what you have to say because you've been around the sport for a very long time. Let's rewind the clock 2 years. We're in the COVID era. Kevin Harvick wins 9 races. I mean, you can look behind me. You can see where my loyalty lies. Yes, I have a little William Byron gimmick to the side. That's the guy that's going to take over for Kevin Harvick, much like when Rusty retired, I picked Kevin Harvick. Whatever. The guy wins 9 races in a year, and we are now sitting almost 2 years later. He hasn't won a race. In your opinion, what is the problem with Stewart-Haas Racing insofar as that 4 car is concerned?
Guys, I really, it's so hard to say. I mean, Kevin Harvick has not forgotten how to drive a race car. One of the best ever. Very technical guy. But I think what it does is it proves just how much has to come together to win one of these races and how you can be close. Because in the meantime, since then, look at the victories that have come out of Stewart-Haas Racing. The organization has won with different drivers.
Of course.
It just so happens that Kevin Harvick hasn't won, but Kevin Harvick hasn't sucked. he's had some pretty good finishes. Now, when he won 9 races, and this is something that you gotta, I don't want to throw anybody under the bus. I don't want to say that anybody was cheating, but whatever they were doing that was up underneath the front of that car that NASCAR told them to stop doing, without a huge fanfare, without a lot of penalties or anything like that, they said, look, stop doing that. Or it's going to be trouble. Whatever it was making things go really well for Kevin Harvick. Now, I'm not to say just that one thing, whatever the thing was, stopped him from that. But man, let's remember, again, one of the greatest of all times in Jimmy Johnson, his winless drought as he went out of the sport was quite amazing, I thought. And it's like, why can't he drive? Well, at the time, the Chevrolet was not necessarily that good of a race car. The Chevys were behind all the way across the board. And they say, okay, well, in that meantime, look at some of these Chevys that were winning. Chase Elliott was winning on his way to a championship. Jimmy had not forgotten how to drive. But guys, let's also remember that this is not what people think is getting just behind the wheel. A lot of fans think, well, why don't you just go faster? Why don't you just, go win? Well, so much has to go into it. And guys, as you get older, I remember the day very clearly because it was my 35th birthday, and I'm out on the basketball court in the playground, and the body just stopped doing what the mind said to do. When you get to a certain age, you just can't do what you could do anymore. Now, these guys certainly are capable still of going out there and winning, but you still have to have a great deal of physical ability to drive these race cars, and you lose some of that as you get older. That's why guys don't drive over 50. Now they're driving later and later these days, but they also aren't winning. So you just simply lose a little bit of your driving ability as you age. You lose your ability to do almost anything in professional sports.
Well, one of the things that I said, and Corey will tell you this, we've been doing this show since 2017. With Harvick that year, it was no qualifying, no problem. Stewart-Haas was putting their best equipment underneath that 4, and they were going. And they were just doing everything they could to put the best on the track. And somewhere between September and the championship, it all fell to hell. I thought that was that year where they did the metric and where you finished last week and you did this and the Schneebitz and Burnham, and on top of that, it showed who was the best of the best, and you got the top 10 every week that you thought. The Kyle Busch, the Kevin Harvick, the Denny Hamlin, Kyle Larson had to sit out that year. Going forward, Chase Elliott, everybody who you thought was going to be a usual suspect was a usual suspect. Speaking on that season, I thought, no qualifying, no problem. Now we're 2 years removed from that, and there's a lot of guys. Denny Hamlin, always the bridesmaid, never the bride. Every time we get to the playoffs, everybody talks about Denny Hamlin is the early favorite. Why hasn't Denny Hamlin won a championship?
Well, again, I think it just goes to show what has to come together to win a championship. But if I'd have to put my finger on one thing, I think the word that's one of the most overused and misunderstood words in all of professional sports is distraction. You say, okay, are there really distractions? Is there really a thing? But look at Denny over the years. Denny has gone into every championship run that he's had, and he's been a championship contender every year. If it hasn't been a feud with somebody on the racetrack, it's been something going on off the racetrack. And now, he says he's completely focused, and I believe him when he says it, that, he leaves ownership role when you get behind the wheel of the race car. And there's been other owners. Dale Earnhardt owned other race cars when he's on the track. Tony Stewart owned other race cars when he was on the track. You can say that I'm totally focused on my race car and nothing else, which you absolutely have to be once I hit the racetrack. But then again, is it a distraction? I don't really know. Could it be a distraction? Absolutely, yes. And then now he's feuding left and right with Ross Chastain. Again, he just seems to be, to me, to be stacking up things that are taking the focus off of a sport that requires the absolute ultimate focus for 4 hours, sometimes more, on any given day. And then again, who gets more pit road violations, whether it's the crew or Denny? That sometimes gets in the way of the thing. I don't know. But one thing I do know is that if he does not get that championship, he still has one whale of a driving career and an amazing resume.
Absolutely, a Hall of Famer to be sure. Now that we've beaten that horse to death, my second question was going to be, who was the least favorite person you had to put a microphone in front of?
You know,
if it's Rusty Wallace, I quit.
No. You know who used to get really mad at us was Jack Sprague. Sprague.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Sprague used to get mad sometimes. We said some stuff. Well, actually, we're joking around one time, and he refused to be on the show or do anything with us after that.
Oh, Jesus.
And guys, quite honestly, I have a really nice relationship with Bill Elliott right now. When I see Bill at the racetrack, we talk a lot. Bill's a great guy. When he drove, he didn't want to do a lot of media stuff. He was tough to get an answer out of because he was there to drive the race car. That's what he wanted to do.
Right.
And he was very passionate about it, and he didn't want to mess around so much. Bill was tough to have an interview with when the camera was on. But again, he was one of those guys that, camera gets gone. He's really cool and really fun to talk to. But for the most part, after spending a few years in NFL and NBA locker rooms getting cussed at, it was really nice to go to the racetrack and have everybody really want to talk to you. Because they needed to. They needed to get their sponsors on the air.
All right, fair enough. That was the extent of my question, was who was the favorite, who was the non-favorite. You played the role pretty good. I'm proud of you.
I gave political answers on all.
Nice.
No, you were fantastic, gentlemen. What else do you got? Start with Jordan, please.
Okay, so John, what was it like working with the late Steve Burns? I love Totally NASCAR. I loved watching him each and every week.
Man.
What was it like working with Steve?
Steve was absolutely awesome. Funny, smart, great to be around. Guys, I tell you, that was a really, really tough day. And I'm just really happy for all the years. And I hate to admit how many years it was. Again, first day I worked with Steve Burns was 1992, guys.
Oh, wow.
I'll tell you how old I am. But anyway, I just can't say enough. Can't say enough about how awesome that was.
Yeah.
As a gentleman who's about to turn 50, and I'm only 7 years behind you, according to what I see online, we're not far behind, dude. Stop saying old. When I get back from a side job, I have to ice my knees and my back. I understand. It's all good.
Ice is our friend.
My voice didn't take me where your voice took you. That's what I'm going to say. Corey, you got another question for John, and then we'll throw it to the medium show right after that.
Alrighty. So John, I don't know if you ended up watching any of the SRX races, but I know me and Chris, we went to the race at Stafford a couple weeks ago, and we saw Ryan Newman, who ended up winning the race up there for the first time, ever since, he won a race and so forth. But what I really like about that series is not only you have guys that, that have come out of retirement, whatever, like Tony Stewart and Paul Tracy and, Castro Neves, who now runs full time, whatever. And then you also have some of the active drivers, that'll come down once in a while from the truck series or the cup series, whatever. So I just want to give your take. What's your take on the SRX series, for the last 2 years? And what do you think about that series, overall, that Tony Stewart and Ray Evernham started?
I think it was a fantastic idea, and I love watching them because of the people that they put together. I love the fact of, I always liked IROC, guys. I always loved the IROC series when it was around. We loved to cover those races. And we went to, me and my wife went to both SRX races here in Nashville. Loved them. I love the concept. I just hope, you know, some of the things that we've been hearing about them having some financial issues with the series. I hope I really hope it survives and comes back year after year, because I know it's just been fantastic for some of these guys to have an outlet that don't race anymore, and some of the guys that do race in other series, how much fun they're having with it. But I'm a huge fan. I've loved it since I've seen it. I just hope it continues, and I hope it survives.
Oh,
what I saw when we went to Stafford, you know, I'm going to cuss for the first time in this episode.
yeah.
Asshole to elbow. There was not a space to be found.
Oh, yeah.
Stands.
All the races.
Oh, my God. And the racing was great. I loved the cars. I loved, you know, it was to see on that very small track in Stafford. I've been there half a dozen times. To see that kind of racing on that small of a track with that high of a horsepower car,
yeah,
was fantastic.
Yeah.
And to hear, and I'm sure you have a little bit more insight than we do when I hear the words financial trouble, I want the SRX to go on. I absolutely do.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. I think it's a fantastic, and I don't know really why they're getting about 1 million viewers a show, and they're packing stands. I think they'll be able to work something out. They will. They got the right people in the right places there.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. Jordan, you got something else? Wait, I was going to throw it to the Medium Show, who is over by the fridge. He's making food porn. This guy is killing me every day I see. Yeah. Here's something else I made that is gorgeous, and I can't eat it.
You guys are killing me, man.
Well, you know, that's my job, bro. Ask John.
It's funny you said that, because my Canadian sister, she hit me up talking about, yo, man, you need to send some of that up here. And I was just about to say, yeah. And I was like, dude, it's not going to hold. I can air seal it. It's still not going to hold. But anyway,
right.
Hey, Mr. Roberts, I'm a huge fan of this guy. It's a two-parter.
Okay.
Did you ever get the chance to interview Dale Sr. and tell me about it?
Man, I'm glad you asked that. Guys, the old man, for lack of a better term, the old man was one of a kind. I was able to do a couple things away from the racetrack with him and interview him several times. You know what was kind of cool was, it was interesting. My sister was ghostwriting a book, and she was supposed to interview Dale. And it was 2001. And I said, you know, look, she goes, hey, can you help me out on this? I need to interview Dale Earnhardt. And I said, well, you know, sis, I'm around this racetrack all the time, and I rarely get to him. But she was ghostwriting the book for Brooks and Dunn. So that was a little in for them. So she was able to go where I never was able to go, into Earnhardt's private dining room at the Garage Mahal. And she had gone in there and talked to him, and just had said how absolutely amazing he was. Now they waited for 3 hours to have him come up there. But once he did, he was nonetheless. But guys, the old man was so cool. He would light up a room. You know, he was supposedly a shy guy, but dude could light up a room, and I will never forget that day. Because that was such a huge loss, and I'll never forget what old Ken Squire said. Whatever NASCAR is, Dale Earnhardt was. He epitomized.
That's true.
Exactly, sir. Exactly.
Amen to that.
Yes, sir.
And with that, we look at the clock. I look at the fact that I have to get up in a couple hours. I want to thank so much, John Roberts. You have an open invitation. Maybe
later this again, guys. Anytime.
Maybe next season, whatever it takes. I would love to have you back. There's so many more questions I have on my page right here in front of me that I can get to. But, oh, my Lord, thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. Enjoyed it.
Thank you, John. We love you.
Thank you.
Mr. Roberts.
You're more than welcome to come back anytime you want.
Hey, careful. I'll come back. I'm like a stray cat. You feed me.
Heck yes, we'll take it.
Hey, we love you already, dude.
All right.
I'm trying to tell you, brother.
All right.
All right, and to the rest of you folks, the Speedway Review faithful, thank you so much. This was fun. I will post later what happened in the fantasy points. We don't have time. We just spent 90 plus minutes with John Roberts. This was awesome. Thank you to Jordan who put this
It was
all
well
together.
worth it.
Yeah,
It was well
really
worth
good,
it,
Jordan.
brother.
Absolutely. Thank you to the Medium Show. Thank you to the Stat Boy. All of us. This was fantastic. And guys, I couldn't be happier with this tonight.
Dude, I got chills. I got chills on my arms, homie.
Look at it. I've got them right here. Same.
I'm telling you, bro.
I'm already filled with excitement.
Certain times when he was talking about Earnhardt or Martin or this guy or that guy, I can watch the hairs on my arm just coming up and like, wow, this was fantastic.
Yes,
John
it was.
Open invitation. I can't wait. Jordan, you're the guy. Make it happen one more time or 2 more times or 5 more times. I know you have to get.
I tell you what. Why don't we have him back on at the end of the season to recap the entire the entire NASCAR season?
That's a fantastic idea.
I love that. That'd be
That's
awesome.
money. That's money.
It's money right there. He's right. The Medium Show had just killed it. That's money. It's awesome. So, for Jordan, for Tori, for Corey, and for me, by the way, 17 games back. You suck. I win. Get out.
Honestly, 17 games back. I honestly don't care at this point. I'm
Will
just
he
like,
be there next year? Will he be there next year?
Ooh,
I live for today. I don't live
Yeah.
for last year. I don't live for next year. I live for today.
yeah.
Will Aaron Judd be there next year?
Last thing before we close this out, if I had to guess, no,
Okay.
Really?
yes.
Wow. I'm surprised by that.
We
can talk about that later.
He wants to, yeah, we can talk about that later. Thank you again to Jordan for hooking this up. Thank you to Tori and Corey for being a great part, and Jordan as well. This was a fantastic interview. I will post the fantasy points later tonight or tomorrow so Tori can see how much he's kicking our ass and how much Corey is dropping like a stone.
At this point, I honestly don't really care where I'm at.
Jordan, I'm going to say this one more time, brother.
But 2 weeks.
Say
I'm
again,
going to say
Tori?
this before you. I'm going to say this one more time, Jordan. I don't know what the hell you do or how the hell you do it. Just keep on doing what you're doing.
Absolutely.
You know it.
Looking forward to
working on-
more, and good luck going forward with nothing but talk. It seems to be great.
Yep, getting some stuff going, and I'll see you guys not next Wednesday, but 2 weeks. Corey,
That's right.
That's right. I'm running the ship next week.
That's
Oh,
right.
shit.
Because next
Oh,
week,
Hey, don't worry. I'll be fine, guys. I've done this before.
Mr. Jordan Balasico will take his tint championship, and the missus will take. I don't even want to say it. We'll take the other championship to AEW Dynamite.
Yes, sir.
Next Wednesday, live in Columbus. Is that where they're going? All right. So enjoy AEW. I might DVR it so I can watch it back to see what you saw. And God, I hate that shit. Anyway, moving forward, I hate AEW. Anyway, it's like Pocono Racing. I really can't. Guys, sorry we didn't give you the recap, which we usually do. John Roberts was so awesome.
Oh my goodness, he was the best.
You can't. You. There's no reason to apologize when you have John Roberts on the show, baby.
Thank you. See, Tori gets it. Why doesn't everybody else? Jordan, before you catch a beating, go. You got to go. We will see you next week right here live on the Speedway Review.